Okay, so we are recording now. So sorry for the delay, but anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mandy Fowler Van Wyck. I'm a director in Ajax, Ontario, which is a suburb of Toronto. And today we are going to talk about host coaching, which is very important. But before we get there, I was hoping that we could check in a little bit about the homework last week. So, of course, we're keeping up with our 15 contacts a week. And the other thing was to listen to the audio recording from last week. And I know I listened to it and I found it very informative. It's a really good reminder of a lot of really great tips. So I was hoping that at least a few of you could share one or two things that you gained from that recording and that you are hoping to implement in your own business. So feel free to unmute yourselves if you'd like to share. Did anyone listen?
I'll go first. I usually always have to go first anyway.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
So I was just hoping someone else would this time. Of course, the fuller the calendar, the better it is for us. We all start out the same, you know, with a kit full of goodies and an empty calendar. So making your parties memorable and making them fun and making them something that people will remember and talk about, so it will encourage others to want to have the same experience, to keep things informative, fun, and relaxing, to stop doing and thinking a certain way, you know, stop thinking a certain way and start doing more. If you're going to think, well, I'm never going to have any parties, of course you're not, because you're going to start believing that. So believe that, you know, 8 can make you great, which is something Kelly Evans taught me. And that, you know, if you can have 8 parties, that will make you great. And then strive for more from there. Believe in yourself and you'll see the changes happening. You need to hear a lot of no's before you're going to hear yeses, and don't take them personally. Just keep on trudging through. That's what I've learned.
Oh, those are really great. Those are really great tips.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to share from the recording? Anyone?
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi,
I'm pretty new. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's very quiet.
Quiet, but
okay. Anyway, I like the part where you follow up with the 222, and I think that that's something that I can put into practice.
Oh, that's great. Yes. So for those who don't recall, so the 222 is where you follow up with people 2 days after the party, and then 2 weeks after the party, and then 2 months after the party. So it's just the touch points, and it's great for customer care as well as for booking shows. Great. Awesome. Does anyone else want to share before we move on?
Sure, I'll share something. I definitely have to agree with Susan in the follow-up part of it. Like, I found that really rung true with me this week, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I took some notes on like how to do better follow-ups post-party. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. And those are nice things that you can implement pretty much right away, right? And you could even kind of go back to some of your more recent parties and then kind of start from there as well. And it's never too late to start something. You just start it, right? Like, who cares if you haven't done it like for 2 years or something? You can start anywhere and make changes in your business. So, no, that's awesome. I'm glad that people got some use out of that. So we're going to be listening to another audio this week as well. That will also hopefully help you guys. So, so today we're talking about host coaching. And host coaching, whether you are primarily a a live consultant or do virtual parties, host coaching is something that really is not optional. It's a very important activity for our business, and something that if there's anything that's lacking in your business, whether it be you're needing to boost your recruiting, whether you're needing to boost your show attendance, whether you need more sales, all of these things can be remedied by your host coaching activity. So it's really the place to start if you're lacking or weak in any of these areas. And where there isn't necessarily like hardwired rules for host coaching, there's definitely some key best practices and guidelines that can help you along the way. And it's one of those things that you just need to establish a system for yourself and kind of stick to it and be consistent. Now I'm just going to share my screen right now to look at a graphic that our lovely Brandy, hopefully this works because I'm not very technical. Can you see that? Okay. You see my?
Yeah.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so this is just something that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. So there are ways that you can kind of figure out where you stand in terms of how your host coaching is right now. And this is to compare yourself to the national average. So on this slide, you'll see that the national show average is $5.49, so that's the average cooking show. And the approximate average order is $80 per order, which works out to 6.8 orders per show. So how you can figure out how you stand, and I actually did this in my team meeting last night, and they were all like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. But when you go to Consultant Connection in your performance details, you'll see the statistics in the bottom about what your average number of orders per show is. So if your orders or your average number of orders is above 6.8, you're probably doing a really good job at your host coaching right now. And if it's below, then there's probably some things that you can do to improve your host coaching. So it's kind of just a good way to see where you stand and how much work you need to put into improving. But even if you have a really great number of orders per show, there are still things that you can do to make things easier for yourself and also for your hosts. So I'm going to, I don't know how to now stop this. Oh. Can you still see me a little bit? I guess it doesn't.
On the side, yeah, we can see you on the side. Okay. You can go to the share screen and go stop sharing screen if you want to take that off, Mandy.
Okay.
It's up to you.
I might actually share a couple more things that I have open, like just to kind of orient everyone. So we'll just go from there. But thank you. All right. So our goals with host coaching is there's really three main things that our goals are. To build relationships with our hosts, to set the expectation, and to ensure that there's a great experience for you as the consultant as well as for the host as well. And whether you're booking whether you're booking a party at a show like we talked about last week or through another way, there are some steps that we can go through to ensure that we have a good host coaching experience. And the things to keep in mind is you want to be consistent with what you're doing, and you want it to be duplicatable so that you can share this with your team. So it's something that's easy to share with your team, because that's important in anything that we do in our business. So one of your host coaching starts obviously when you book the show, but another really important thing is about your host package. So I know people have varying things that they put in their host package, but there are kind of, recommendations. I know I usually put a few catalogs, outside order forms that I print from the website. I started doing the top 40 list, which I think I have here somewhere. I can't see it because of this. But the top 40 list, it's a resource that you can print off, and it helps your host brainstorm contacts. So that's a good thing to put in there. Opportunity brochure and a kit coupon is also a good way to, plant those recruiting seeds. And I also offer mini catalog invitations to my hosts. I know that there are some people that actually will mail invitations for their hosts. I personally don't do that because I don't feel like I have the time to do that, but I know people do that and they have really great success. So that is an option as well. So I really like this Hosting 101 resource that is available. This is available as part of the host coaching course on PCU. So it's one of the resources there. And I find this is a really nice summary to kind of, like a checklist for what you should be talking to your host about. And it also covers virtual parties as well. And I know for virtual parties, I use sometimes mail catalogs, but I don't always. I sometimes just message them the host planner. It kind of depends on how far out the parties are, because sometimes I find that my virtual parties are booked in pretty close, so I don't necessarily have a lot of time. But if you do, it's a great idea to send them catalogs, because then they can collect outside orders that way as well.
Can I just interject on one thing, Mandy?
Yeah.
I've made it a practice to always send out a host package, no matter how close in the party is for a virtual party, just because I never want to miss those orders of people who, or somebody they work with, or just that opportunity for them to have a catalog in their hands. Some people just really kind of prefer that. So it may, there's times where it probably doesn't get used, but something that I've done on all my catalogs as well. So I'll give them 2 catalogs and I'll give them like 3 or 4 mini catalogs. Mm-hmm. I started printing a label, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well, but I'll just read it to you. It's a 5161 Avery label. And so I've got them printed out, and there's a few blank lines, and I stick them on the front of every catalog that goes out for a party, whether it's virtual or in person. And it says shop, Erica's Pamper Chef party here. And it's got the blank, the beginning of the web, the shopping link, right? pamperchef.ca/party/ and then I just write it in for each party. And then it says ship to any address in Canada or ship to host to arrange pickup from blank. Phone orders welcome with my name and my phone number, because not everyone shares the link correctly. Sometimes they might have a typo. So this way it's kind of on the front of every catalog. And I haven't really run the numbers, but I do find I get more outside orders on my virtual parties and my in-person parties by having that label right on the front so they can't miss it. It just seems to kind of, remind the host to share it. I just find that I'm getting more. I have to run my stats, but I don't really know when I started doing it, probably 8 to 10 months ago. Okay. So I've found it really, really helpful. So.
Awesome. I love that idea. I think I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, sorry.
Sorry for interrupting there.
No, it's fine. So that's great. I love it, because I do not pretend to know everything.
What's that?
I do not pretend to know everything.
Oh, no, neither do I, for sure, right? Totally.
So, yeah, host package, and I also find having a host package, whatever it is that you send, is a really good, it's almost like an icebreaker, because it's a good place to start when you're on your calls as well. So so we talked about 222. Another number acronym to remember is the 5-15-5. So this refers to our desire to have 15 buying guests at our show. So that's where the 15 comes in. And then 5 orders, outside orders before a show, and 5 outside orders after the show. So that's kind of like an ideal situation for our hosts. So when you're making your calls, this is kind of a good thing to keep in mind. So one of the primary things we're going to focus on today is the 24-hour call. And a 24-hour call isn't necessarily only for host coaching. It's also for any other critical part of your business. So it could be following up with from a trade show, like good leads from a trade show, recruit leads, that sort of thing as well. But obviously it's really good to follow up with your bookings. So you're going to try to do this 24 hours after you make the booking. And the primary goal of this is to kind of set in motion those 3 goals that we have going in, which is to build a relationship, set expectations, and to make sure you're having a good experience, right? So obviously you're going to confirm the details. You're going to make sure that the date still works. You're going to confirm all of their contact information so that you can, set them up on your website. It's also a really great time to get to know them a little better, ask them a little bit about their family, what they do. This is also a really good way to start thinking about dropping recruiting hints, because you can find out kind of what their situation is in their work life. Also what they liked about the party that they attended, if they attended a party. And I also find this is a good time to, if you are doing a theme party, it's kind of good to set the theme at least. I don't talk about recipes at this point, but it's a good time to at least set the theme. And this will also be like, if you are offering the service of mailing invitations, then you might want to ask them to get you a list of their guest address so you can mail those for them. This is also the opportunity to set the expectation about attendance, because one thing that I think is really important to remember is that just because we know how to host a party and how, like, if we were to host a party, we would know what to do. We can't assume that our hosts all know what to do to host a good party. And that's something that I heard a few years ago, and that really rung true to me, because sometimes you make assumptions that people just know, like, you need to invite a lot of people. And sometimes people just think, oh, I'm going to invite like my mom and my sister and my 2 best girlfriends, and that's enough. But it's really good to set the expectation that you want to have the goal of getting 15 guests there. And sometimes this can be intimidating to people, because they might be like, oh, my house is too small, or I don't know that many people, I don't think anyone will come. And this is where you can start going through that top 40 list that I was talking about earlier, that you can include in your host packet. And this really can help you help the host brainstorm about people that they can invite. And of course, we know that it's recommended to over-invite to a party. So they always, I think the statistic is like 1/3 to 1/4 of the people you invite will actually be able to make it to the party. So you have to over-invite in order to get that number. So, yeah, just start that brainstorming process. And also let them know that you have the outside order forms and the catalog in the packet as well, and that you will also set them up on the website and send them a link, so that anyone that they invite that isn't able to make it, they can refer them to those things, either to a catalog or to your website. And I really like the idea that Brandy shared about having that information right on your catalog. So it's not like on a paper that could get lost, but it's right on the catalog, so you kind of set in that expectation. The other thing that's really important to stress is to personally invite, to get your host to personally invite, and not just set up a Facebook event and leave it at that, because as we all know, that's not really a great way to, not everyone sees those, they get lost, they may not, take it too seriously, but a personal invite goes a long way. So I always tell my hosts to contact their friends however they usually contact them. If it's somebody that they see at school drop off, then just tell them or let them know. Say I have to let them know in person. If you text a lot of people, you can send them a text. If you talk to them on the phone, talk to them on the phone. But I say a personal invite will go a long way, and you'll see your numbers much higher. Another great thing is, like Brandy said, is to recommend that they bring the catalog to work or send one to their spouse's work with some order forms. It's a good way, even just having it out there. Sometimes to catch people's eye, they'll collect a few orders that way. It's also, like I said before, it's also a really good time to kind of bring up the opportunity. So the other thing that you tuck into your packet is going to be the opportunity brochure and the hit coupon, and it's an opportunity to draw their attention to it and let them know that there is the opportunity to use some of their host rewards towards the kit, and it's a good time to kind of let them know, like, that you think for whatever reason that they think that it would make a good fit for your team. It's a good opportunity for that as well. Does anyone have anything else to add about 24-hour call? Good. I can see some of you. So typically after this call is a really good time to, and I just try to do it right away so I don't forget, set them up on the website. You have all their details, so you can send that off to them. Also, if you're going to be creating an event or a group on Facebook, it's a good time to do that as well and just get it all set up. And then you can kind of check that off of your list of things to do. So the other thing I forgot to mention is I also like to figure out at this time how they prefer correspondence to be. So some people really like the phone. Some people like text messages. Some people hate text messages. A lot of times on virtual parties, I do most of my host coaching through Messenger. So it just, you kind of want to establish that so that you can find the best way to reach your host that's going to be comfortable for them as well. So typically, the next form of contact would be kind of like a check-in, follow-up call or contact. And I like to do it for a live show. I like to do it about a week out. And this is to talk about things like the recipe, to check in about attendance. One thing that I like to offer, especially if the attendance isn't really where I want it to be, I suggest that they ask everyone to bring a friend. And I actually offer a free gift to anyone who brings a friend to the party. So I kind of add that as a little carrot to get people to actually bring someone.
What do you give, Mandy?
I usually just give like a season's best or something like that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just something small. Mm-hmm. But people like it anyway. It's just stuff. So
you're way more generous than me. I give a recipe card.
Well, whatever you want. It's your business, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Whatever. But I typically have a lot of like off-season ones that I have collected over time. So I just give those.
Yeah.
I think I stocked up when there was on the outlet. There was some on the outlet too. I stocked up on those. It's also a great time to, if they're having a little issues with attendance, go back to the top 40 list and maybe re-brainstorm a few more people they might want to ask, like maybe, ask your neighbors or the kids you know from your kids' drop-off, or maybe your kids just joined a hockey team, so maybe some of those moms. So just kind of brainstorm maybe other people that they could invite, kind of a little more last minute. And it's also a really good time to talk about the booking benefit for them. So talk to them about, are there people coming that have a really big wish list, or people that you think might want to also host a show, and let them know that that when a party's booked from their party, that they'll be able to get something additional for 50% off. So I just like to put that out there before the show because it's really nice walking into a show with a booking already.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
the best.
You know what I find for wording that often helps my host not shy away from over inviting is when I remind them that like the more people that are there, the more like a party it's going to feel, the less that people might, you know, I always reassure them, I never want people to feel pressured to buy, but if there's 3 people there, they might have that impression themselves, even despite what I might say. So they're going to find that their guests will be much more comfortable, usually, when there's a lot more people there. They will be buying because they really truly want to get the things they are picking out. And I find that my hosts really are like, oh yeah, that they really find that makes sense. It's like the more people there are, the more like a party and the less pressure people are going to feel. And I reassure them that I'm not going to be pressuring people, but just that sometimes people do feel that way. And I think they relate to that. So
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Maybe some wording that you find. When I switched to that, I really saw a difference in the number of people that my hosts were inviting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that I'm getting all these tips. I'm like scrambling, writing down notes.
Oh, I'm writing notes too, like for sure.
No, it's great. I love that we can all learn from each other.
Mm.
And then typically after this call, that's when I'll email the shopping list or whatever, or any other correspondence. I'll do that follow up. And then call 3 or final check-in. I typically do this by just a message, just like confirming times, address. And then I always ask them if there's any tools that they want to see in person. So sometimes by this time they've kind of been looking on the website, looking in the catalog. What tools are real? Like, do they want to see? What do they want to play with? Because I try to make an effort not to like overbring things to shows, but if there's something they want to see, I'll bring it. And again, if there's things that their friends want to see, I'll bring it. So I just like to, that's kind of my last minute thing, usually the day before party, just to see.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that people find it's very personalized then, right? Like they know you're making an effort to make this a good experience for them.
Exactly. And it gets them thinking too. I think it kind of brings them back to their wish list, which is really important too, because you want them to be excited and to have a nice big wish list. So it's nice to, you know, bring them back to that, and so they can see what they want. So that's the bulk of the content that I have for today. I have a couple other things I wanted to share. Is there any questions, anything anyone wants to add about host coaching?
You guys, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh,
hi. Something that I heard years ago that just really, I guess, hopefully will drive it home for some people, as it did with me when I heard it, about host coaching. And the host coaching is going to determine what your sales are, not what you make, not the products that you bring, but the work that you do before the party is going to determine what your sales are going to be and what your results are going to be. Because if the people are there, then you're going to be able to book and recruit.
That is true. I think that I've heard something similar. It's like you're writing your paycheck or whatever. You're writing your paycheck by doing your host coaching.
And then you go to the party to pick it up.
Yeah, that's it. I know I heard it. It was probably you. I heard it. No, that's great. So our call to action this week, there's a couple things. And that is practicing what you'll say when a host books a party. The other thing is to make a 24-hour call, even if you have, for whatever, if you haven't done it yet, for all of the bookings you have on your calendar. So even though it may be more than 24 hours, it's okay to start now. You can start and just start with that 24-hour call. There are resources. I think I'll post it on the group. Like some scripts that you can use for the 24-hour call. Yeah, so just kind of go through those you have on your calendar and start there. The other thing is there's going to be another training audio that we'll post. and that's going to be about host coaching. And it's another great audio from one of the U.S. Conferences. So there's that. I just wanted to leave. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm addicted to podcasts. That's like, I listen to podcasts all the time in the car, doing dishes, everything. And one of my favorites is the Gretchen Rubin Happier podcast. I don't know if anyone listens to that, but it's a really great podcast. And I'm going to play a portion of one for you. I hope that I was trying to figure out how to do this, so I'm going to see if this works. If it doesn't sound good, let me know, and I'll post it on the thing. But I just thought this was really smart.
There are many aspects of my work life that deserve reflection, but there's one thing I want to talk about here. It's important for me, I think it's a good thing to remember for everyone, that the most effective way to progress from point A to point B is not to work the hardest. As for myself, I know that sometimes I try to get things done with sheer force, just by barreling through myself, without asking for help, without delegating, without thinking about shortcuts or more efficient methods I could use, without asking myself, is this effort even really worth the trouble? I just power through. And that's often not very effective. It's important to work hard, yes, but I should also work smart and think about how I can achieve my aims in the most efficient way without a lot of wasted effort. And Elizabeth, my sister, told me this story that seems relevant. In the world of acting, Lee Strasberg taught an approach called method acting. And in method acting, in order to develop a deep understanding of their roles, actors use techniques to recreate the character's emotional state by recalling emotions or sensations from their own life. And Dustin Hoffman, the actor who stars in The Graduate, Tootsie, All the President's Men, Wag the Dog, and so many other big roles. Well, Dustin Hoffman is one of the most prominent followers of method acting. There are a few different versions of the following story, but this is the version that Elizabeth told me. Dustin Hoffman was working with the legendary British actor and director Laurence Olivier. And Laurence Olivier is known for his Shakespearean roles and is considered by many one of the greatest actors of his time. They were both working on the 1976 film Marathon Man. Hoffman had a grueling scene coming up where his character hadn't slept in 3 days. And Hoffman told Olivier that to prepare for it, he too hadn't slept for 72 hours. Olivier looked at him. "My dear boy," said Olivier, "why don't you try acting?" And I love this story because it's a reminder. The hardest work isn't necessarily the best work. The advice that Laurence Olivier gave to Dustin Hoffman is a good reminder for all of us. I'm Gretchen Rubin, and I hope this makes your week a little happier.
Anyway, I just thought that was a really cute story, and also just something to keep in mind with our own businesses. And for me, I think having systems, like having a system for host coaching, is a way to work efficiently and not reinvent the wheel and not work yourself too hard. So I think with every part of our business, there's systems that we can set up. And and I just think that's something that we can all keep in mind and just not drive ourselves crazy. So I think with that, I think that's everything that I have. Is there anything that anyone else wants to add? No? Yes? I think someone unmuted themselves, so I'm not sure.
I did. I was just going to say my system is quite simply a binder with a tab for every month, and I put my host coaching checklist behind the month that party is coming up, and I just check things off. It's not very techy. It's all paper and pen, but it's what works for me. So we don't have to learn, entirely new systems all the time. But that's just what works for me. I know some people have real techie, they do it all on a spreadsheet, and that's cool. I'm not good with spreadsheets.
Well, that's good. Okay. Anyone else? You good? All right. Well,
I just had a question about the top 40 list when it comes to like host coaching. when would I implement that when host coaching? Like, when do I add that? Because I've never tried that.
I would do it like, so that I think that is kind of an important thing to bring up in your 24-hour call where you're setting that expectation.
Okay.
So if it's something that you print off and put in your host packet, it's kind of there when you're having that conversation. So, and that's
It's on the back though of the.
Oh, it's on that too. Yes, it's also on the back of the folder. You don't necessarily have to print it off, but you can if you'd like. I like the print off one because it has all the categories on it, like kind of set up. But yeah, it's just a good place to help your hosts get to that point where they're thinking outside of their like immediate family and friends, because that's sometimes where people get stuck. So it kind of helps them brainstorm out of that.
I've brainstormed with my hosts too. I've said like, hey, you got a piece of paper and a pen? So write down your A list, like who are the people you always think of first, and okay, list your family that you want to invite. List any out-of-town family. Like, and I wait. I make it like a 4 or 5 minute call where I wait while they write it down. And then I know they're doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Anything else, guys? Well,
Thanks, Mandy. You've done a great job.
Well, thank you. Happy month end, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, there's still 6 days. Lots of time.
Thanks, Mandy.
No problem. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Mandy.
Thank
Bye.
Thank you. See you all again.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.